This podcast will fail. And that's probably okay. But then again, I can be completely wrong, so who really knows? Episode 75. 75. Holy crap. I feel like I just started making these podcasts. And here I am 75 days later. My gosh. Hi, how are you? Yeah. So, I think I have come to terms with a lot in Season 5 of This Podcast Will Fail. Season 5 being titled Coming to Terms. So, it's been an interesting, diverse, and dynamic, and in some ways rather emotional season for me. I covered a lot of ground. I moved forward with the premise of the whole season was to help me get ready to deal with the more difficult aspects of my life and coming to terms with the person I once was as opposed to the person who I am now, i.e. the person I choose to be. So in that spirit, I think we're going to take a break. Yeah. I think I have to come to terms with the idea that this is the week of Christmas. I have a lot going on. I have a lot to deal with and a lot to get to. And my time becomes shorter and shorter and shorter for these types of indulgent endeavors. These self-aggrandizing monologue sessions, which I have painted myself into several corners. So I think we're going to take a break for the remainder of 2020. 2020 has given me enough to work with. I have worked with all of it. I have had enough of it. And I have come to terms with the idea here, just in the last hour, with the idea of just holding off, right? Let's finish season 5 right here. And then come January, we'll pick it up, we'll do season 6, and we'll do something different. The prevailing theory in my head right now, because I do tend to make things up as I go along, that is one of my more charming character flaws, is that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. A phrase that has been coined by many a prominent person throughout history. I tend to attribute it to Benjamin Franklin, although I know there are several other historical figures that the statement is attributed to. But yeah, for me, old Ben Franklin makes me stop and think. I've been hopping on here for 75 episodes now, which is less than 75 days, because when I started this thing, I was going every single day. This was a daily podcast, and it was that get it all out of my system, work through all of the hangups and issues that I have, and it was good. But then one weekend, I forget when it was like a month and a half ago. One weekend I was like, I don't have time. I got this thing going on with the kids. I don't know when I'm going to do this. And there was this little voice in my head and on my shoulder that said, so don't do it. I all along have put this sort of accountability on my own shoulders. I am beholden to myself, honestly, because I went into the premise that no one's going to be listening to this thing anyway. This is almost like a private, public diary, because you don't know who I am. You don't know my name. You don't know where I am. Some of you who listen know who I am because you've been guests on the show, but anyone who happens to be trolling around Spotify looking for something to listen to and sees this interesting name, This Podcast Will Fail. This might be interesting. Well, I think I've, for now, at least for the next week and a half or so, said enough interesting things. I don't really have much more to say right now. So I'm going to celebrate this holiday season with my family. I'm going to be off of work for a whole week, which would otherwise give me time to sit down and do a daily podcast, but I don't have anything else to say right now. I've said my piece, I've done my bit, and I feel that it's time to retool, right? So from a daily podcast down to a weekday podcast with no weekends, we're just going to kind of pump the brakes a little bit here and reassess exactly what I want to do with this format and this forum. But again, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we'll see. I don't know what next year will hold. I don't know what I'm going to do in January. I don't know what that season's going to be about. So I think it's a good idea for me to take some time and put my thoughts together, figure out how I want to move forward. I got some ideas. I really do. I got things I want to do, but I worry that they don't fall in line with the original intended purpose of the podcast, right? Things that require me to do stuff I don't want to do, right? Ideas around getting more interactive, trying to reach out to more people, trying to engage with whoever might be listening to this thing and attract new folks to engage. I can't do that without things like the dreaded social media. Don't want anything to do with social media, but I don't know at this point if I have a choice. So I have to think about that. I had an idea for another project that would be more of a weekly current events kind of thing. I don't know if I want to do current events. Current events is tough because your stuff is time sensitive and it has a shelf life. And if you don't do it right, then you miss the boat on stories. And I don't know. It sounded like a really good idea in my head last week, but I'm really struggling to understand how I keep on top of that with my work schedule, my life, and this podcast, which hasn't failed yet. It will, but it hasn't failed yet. And whether it succeeds or fails, I need to know that I'm fully invested. I need to know that I am in it for the right reasons. So we shall see. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. We're going to make this a little 10-minute diggy for today. I will be back sometime in the beginning of January. I don't know. January something. I'll come back with an idea for season 6, or I'll come back and say, you know what, we've done all we want to do here, and I don't really know what I'd be coming back to. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm just gonna take time to think about it. For these 75 episodes, I just really want to say thank you. I am forever grateful to everyone who took the time to take a look at this thing and see what it's all about, and hopefully you found some value. Hopefully you found some compelling conversation, something interesting to listen to. I hope it's okay that I step away for a week and a half or so and not do anything. I hope that I don't lose your favor or lose my fortunes here. Not that I've had any, but, fortunate to have a few of you. Wherever you are, I hope that you and your family are safe and whole and healthy in this difficult time in the world. If you celebrate a holiday, I wish you the best possible holiday you could celebrate, whatever it happens to be. Best to you. Thank you so much for listening and for your time. I will speak to you next year. Have a good one.